As we look around the town, it's hard to find a person of color, and that's why our story begins. Reno is known for its gambling, the casinos, the slots, the tourism. It has been one of the fastest growing cities for the past 8 years. We have grown by leaps and bounds. Instead of neon signs and mega casinos, it's now suburbs and traffic that dot the landscape. One of those suburbs on the outskirts of town is Spanish Springs. It's here at Spanish Springs High School that we 5 students have met. My name is Justine Michelizzi. I'm a senior and the producer of the Ben Palmer portion of the story. One of my new best friends, a fellow senior, is Chuck Ron. He produced the Black Springs segment of this story. Carlos Herrerez, the junior on the team, produced a story about the fight of the century. And our sophomores, Jacob Griffith and Zach Burke, we lovingly referred to them as our interns, but they also made segments to our story. Jacob produced the piece of Paul R. Williams, and Zach made the piece about Marion Motley. And lastly, Mr. Bowers, who gave up nights and weekends with his family to help us make this dream a reality. This was the team who would eventually become a family. We spent countless hours researching at the library and Nevada Historical Society. We put on our little white gloves and poured through boxes of old photographs. We took trips to California, tops of mountain passes, and all over the Reno and Sparks area. We braved the cold and the snow to get interviews, but in the end, it was all worth it. Our lives have been forever changed by this experience. And now you know who made this story. Why would 6 people, which not one of them are black, make a story about the African American experience of our city? I guess the simple answer would be because we didn't know. We didn't know that black people were segregated in Reno, and the only place they could buy homes was in an area called Black Springs. We didn't know that one of the first black men in history to be inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame played football at our college. We didn't know that our town was rich in heritage from men like Paul L. Williams, a famous architect, and Ben Palmer, an early African American rancher. And we didn't know that one of the first people to ever explore Nevada was a black mountain man named Jim Beckworth. We simply didn't know. Through discovering this history, we would also learn the darker side of what it meant to be black in northern Nevada. The racism, the discrimination, the hatred practiced against people simply because their skin was a different color. We simply didn't know. We don't study this stuff in class. We don't hear about it in the media. And it's not something that comes up in everyday conversation. It's our dream that our story can begin this conversation.
And going to Sparks was, I went, the only place I ever went to in Sparks when I first moved here was the Nugget, occasionally for the buffet, because there weren't a lot of hotels then. And it was very hostile out there. It was real hostile out there. I mean, this is the only place I've ever lived where I park downtown and go to a restaurant for lunch and come back and there's Ku Klux Klan literature on my car. Whoa, what's up with that? This is in the 1970s. Then I start thinking about historically, and well, you know, the casinos in this town weren't, quote, integrated. That doesn't mean they were integrated. I mean, they stopped segregating late 1960s. There was an anti-miscegenation law in the state until 1968. And I'm here in 1972. That's why Nevada was always known as the Mississippi of the West.
And I was like a celebrity, literally. That's how I felt. I mean, I was treated like with royalty. I never felt 1 ounce of discrimination or anything like that. People were gravitating towards me and, wow, you speak so well, and where'd you learn to speak? And I'm thinking, what is that all about? Because I've had people tell me when I talk on the telephone, for example, God, I thought you were a white person. And I'm thinking, what does a white person sound like on the telephone and what does a black person sound like on the telephone? And I know that there are some variables to that, but still, why is that an issue? Why did I sound like a white person? Because I use good grammar or because my articulation was well defined. So when I first moved up here, I noticed that I was kind of put on a pedestal, and I don't know if it was because of my ethnicity, my intellect, or just because I was, you know, different.
I think that what I've experienced more than racism is white privilege, where I've just